A destitute girl used her final coins to cover the bus fare for a wealthy man. What he did next left everyone in awe. Before we dive into the narrative, please share a comment to let us know which city you're tuning in from. Delight in the narrative. William Stone navigated the city streets, his mind preoccupied with the weight of tomorrow's responsibilities. In a fleeting moment of distraction, he veered onto a narrow, abandoned street. Just as he attempted to escape, a band of robbers encircled his vehicle, compelling him to exit with his hands held high. Moments later, he found himself on the sidewalk. Without a car, a phone, or a wallet. His heart raced as he struggled to gather his thoughts, yet the truth was unmistakable. He found himself stranded, with no means to return home. With a steadying inhale, he began his stride toward the bustling main avenue. No taxis were on hand, and without a phone, he was unable to reach out to a private driver. His sole choice was to board the bus. Just a short distance away, Julia stood patiently at the bus stop. The day had stretched on, leaving me weary and drained. After one of the busiest shifts at the diner this week, all she craved was the comfort of home and a chance to unwind. The bus pulled up, and Julia hurried aboard, counting her scant coins before passing them to the driver. She strolled to the rear and settled by the window, briefly shutting her eyes. Yet, something piqued her interest. "I have already informed you, sir. Insufficient funds. No transportation." She lifted her eyelids and gazed toward the front of the bus. The driver was addressing a man at the door with evident impatience. He appeared anxious, his attire in disarray, suggesting he had endured a challenging experience. "I experienced a theft. They seized it all. My vehicle, my money, my device. I just need to get home," he said, striving to maintain his composure, yet the frustration in his voice was unmistakable. The driver folded his arms and gave a disapproving shake of his head. "Each day, a new tale emerges. Funds are lacking. There is no ride available." William shut his eyes briefly, inhaling deeply. He found himself in uncharted territory. He had grown accustomed to resolving every issue with just a quick phone call or a swipe of his credit card. However, at this moment, he found himself trapped with no escape in sight. At that moment, Julia rose to her feet. "I will cover his fare." All at once, the bus fell into a hush. William lifted his gaze, taken aback. He was taken aback by the unexpected intervention, particularly from someone he didn't know. Their eyes locked for an instant, revealing her lack of hesitation or expectation for anything in return. Her only desire was to lend a hand. "You really don't need to do that," he murmured, a hint of discomfort in his voice. "I have already completed that." "You should hop on before he has a change of heart," she said matter-of-factly, passing the cash to the driver. Faced with no alternatives, William acquiesced. He boarded and settled into a seat a few rows in front. As the bus began to roll forward once more, he cast a subtle glance behind him. Who was that girl? He had grown accustomed to a reality where nearly everything was laced with ulterior intentions. Yet this unfamiliar figure remained unaware of his identity. Her intentions were pure, she sought neither to impress him nor to gain anything in return. She had merely offered her assistance out of genuine desire. Despite his best efforts, William found himself unable to shake the thought from his mind. As the bus arrived at Julia's stop, she rose with a sense of tranquility and made her way to the door. William was overwhelmed by a spontaneous desire to express his gratitude to her. "Hey," he called, prompting her to turn around. She regarded him with a hint of curiosity, her expectations set low. "Thanks a lot. Your assistance today has been invaluable to me." Julia offered a faint smile. "At times, we all require a bit of assistance." And then, just as he was about to utter another word, she alighted from the bus and vanished into the darkness. William lingered by the window, observing as the bus doors gradually shut with a soft thud. He was completely unaware of her name. However, one thing remained clear. He would always remember that girl. The bus rolled along its path through the vibrant city, yet William's gaze remained fixed outside, his thoughts lingering on the events that had transpired. It felt like a dream. He, among the richest individuals in the city, had just received assistance from a stranger who, based on her modest attire and diner uniform, likely possessed far less than he did. His fingers danced softly on his knee while his mind worked to unravel the complexities of it all. His pride weighed heavily on him. He had always been self-sufficient, relying on no one to fulfill his needs. And now, there he sat, aboard a bus, clad only in the garments he wore and holding on to a favor he never anticipated would come into play. Julia, in contrast, had already progressed to the next chapter. For her, the gesture held no particular significance, merely a straightforward act of goodwill. Having faced numerous challenges, she understood that even the simplest act could change everything. As the bus approached her stop, she reached for the signal cord and rose to her feet. With deliberate strides, she approached the door, oblivious to the fact that William remained fixated on her every move. Upon her departure, he averted his gaze, troubled by the profound impact that fleeting encounter had on him. Our journey continues to the heart of the city. The driver made an announcement. William exhaled deeply. As the bus arrived at its destination, he disembarked and strolled through the well-known streets. His building loomed just a few blocks away, a striking glass edifice that stood in stark contrast to the unadorned nature of public transportation. The journey to the entrance felt peculiar. He sensed a disconnection. There is no vehicle. There is no phone. Silence. The doorman lifted his eyebrows in surprise as he noticed him coming closer. "Excuse me, Mr. Stone. Is everything okay?" William managed a faint smile. "It's simply been a rough day, James. May I come in?" The man nodded, a hint of confusion lingering in his expression, yet he refrained from voicing any inquiries. Upon entering his opulent penthouse, William collapsed onto the couch, shutting his eyes for a brief respite. All seemed so far away now. His daily practice. His creation. The shallow realm he inhabited. Yet, what troubled him the most was his inability to stop pondering over that girl. The following day, Julia departed from her home, ready to embrace another day of work. The modest home she inhabited with her mother was nestled in a quaint yet inviting neighborhood. After her father's passing, she dedicated herself to managing expenses, juggling her time between school and her job at the diner. She strolled through the bustling streets toward the bus stop, a routine she embraced each day. Upon her arrival, she rested against the post, embracing the stillness of those fleeting moments before the onset of another lengthy day. In another part of the city, William stirred from his slumber, his mind fixated on a singular thought. Searching for that girl. It was a spontaneous notion, yet an inner force compelled him to act on it. Perhaps it was a sense of wonder, or perhaps something more profound, but he felt an undeniable urge to encounter her once more. "James," he called as he made his way through the lobby. The doorman, still taken aback by William's unexpected arrival the previous night, regarded him with a newfound respect. "Indeed, how may I assist you? Please assist me in locating something. I'm looking for a diner that's conveniently located along the bus line that goes through downtown." James stared, taken aback. "Is there a particular one you have in mind?" William paused briefly. Though her name eluded him, the uniform remained etched in his memory. "It should be a place where the staff dons blue uniforms." The doorman acknowledged with a nod. "I will locate that information for you, sir." William expressed his gratitude and departed, a sense of uncertainty lingering as he contemplated a choice that felt illogical. Yet, inexplicably, he found himself unable to dismiss it. A few hours later, the soft chime of the diner's bell echoed as William entered. The setting was unpretentious yet welcoming. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm bread enveloped the surroundings. Several tables were filled with familiar patrons, while staff efficiently navigated the space, delivering orders with speed. He approached the counter, casting a subtle glance around him. And then he laid eyes on her. Julia stood behind the counter, meticulously arranging a tray filled with coffee cups. With her hair neatly secured in a ponytail, she exuded a concentrated brilliance in her eyes as she immersed herself in her task. William discovered a smile creeping onto his face without his awareness. He moved in slightly, poised for her to catch sight of him. Yet Julia was so engrossed that it took her a moment to glance up. Upon doing so, she blinked in astonishment. "You," she whispered. He inclined his head just a bit, finding her response quite entertaining. "Myself. What brings you to this place?" "I arrived to resolve my obligation." Julia furrowed her brow, perplexed. "What obligation?" William leaned his arms against the counter. "Yesterday, you covered my bus fare. I believe it's only just to reciprocate the kindness." She chuckled softly, a slight shake of her head accompanying the sound. "It was merely inconsequential. There's no need for you to do that." He arched an eyebrow. "In that case, allow me the pleasure of treating you to a coffee." Julia paused for a moment, then finally gave a slight shrug. "If that's the way you choose to resolve your obligation, very well." She carefully poured the coffee, placing the cup gently in front of him. William steadied his grip on the handle, observing her intently as he savored the first sip. "How long have you been with the company?" 24 months. "What do you enjoy doing outside of your job?" Julia regarded him with a hint of skepticism. "What makes you curious about this?" William offered a faint smile. "Due to my inquisitive nature." She paused thoughtfully before responding. "I pursue my studies in business administration during the evening hours. My dream is to one day open my own bakery." William arched an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "That's truly remarkable." She merely shrugged her shoulders. "It may only be a vision at this moment, yet I am determined to turn it into reality." He smiled, appreciating her unwavering resolve. "I have faith in you." Julia let out a gentle laugh. "What makes you think that's possible?" "We only crossed paths yesterday." He paused for a moment, savoring another sip of coffee before responding. "There are individuals you can identify instantly." Her brow furrowed, uncertainty clouding her thoughts as she tried to make sense of it. Just as she was about to reply, a colleague called out to her, prompting her to step aside to help another customer. William observed her from afar, his gaze fixed intently on her every move. He found it difficult to articulate the reason, yet he enjoyed his presence in that place. He appreciated her eloquence, the effortless manner in which she managed everything. It was an experience unlike any other, something that, after a considerable stretch of time, resonated with authenticity. The doorbell rang once more as William entered the diner for the second time this week. The ambience mirrored his previous visit, with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the inviting scent of warm bread just out of the oven, and the steady buzz of patrons entering and exiting. Yet, for him, there was an unmistakable sense of change this time around. Perhaps it was Julia. He took a seat on one of the counter stools, observing her as she focused on her tasks. In contrast to their initial encounter, she appeared to be more attuned to his presence. "So, you've returned to settle another obligation?" Julia inquired, effortlessly pouring him a cup of coffee before he even had the chance to request it. William beamed. "Perhaps. This time, I will cover the cost myself." She arched an eyebrow, folding her arms across her chest. "Ah, that's quite nice. I was beginning to feel concerned that I might need to assist you once more." He let out a gentle laugh. "I have no reason to question it. Just so you're aware, I arrived fully equipped today." Julia merely shook her head and returned to her tasks. The atmosphere buzzed with activity, and William seized the moment to watch her from afar. Her movements behind the counter were mesmerizing, swift and intent, as she welcomed each customer with a gentle smile. As the frenzy began to fade and tranquility settled in, she rested against the counter, her gaze fixed on him with a hint of curiosity. "What is your profession?" He paused briefly. The true revelation might entirely transform her perception of him. However, rather than deceiving, he opted for the most straightforward rendition of reality. "I am involved in the hospitality industry." "Ah." Julia nodded, lost in contemplation. "Ah, that explains your keen attention to the coffee during our last encounter," William smiled. "Perhaps." She observed him intently for a moment, as though attempting to unravel a mystery. "What led you to select that area of expertise?" He inhaled slowly, tracing the rim of his cup with his finger before responding. "It was simply the most straightforward route." Julia scowled. "Simple. Managing hotels seems quite complex. Don't misunderstand me." He offered a faint smile. "However, when you enter a lineage that has already established a vast empire, certain choices are predetermined before you even have the opportunity to decide for yourself." She observed him intently, yet chose not to inquire further. It was evident that his response held deeper layers than he was revealing. "What about you?" William shifted the topic. "Are you still pondering over that bakery?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement at the question. "Without fail. This is my ultimate aspiration." "So, what's holding you back?" Julia emitted a brief chuckle. "Resources, moments, situations. Select your choice. You appear to be quite resilient." Her lips curved into a smile. "I am not. Yet, at times, the journey stretches out further than we wish it would." William gave a slight nod. He grasped her meaning perfectly. Just as they were about to delve deeper into their discussion, a co-worker of Julia's hurriedly approached them. "Julia, could you please handle the order at table 3? With a swift nod, she turned and departed, leaving William solitary at the counter. He observed her as she engaged with customers, conversed with her colleagues, and navigated her surroundings with a grace that appeared effortless. After a lengthy period, he experienced a sense of tranquility, as if he had discovered a space where he could just be, free from pressure and pretense. He found pleasure in that sensation. After he completed his coffee, he signaled to one of the staff members to settle the bill. Before departing, he generously tipped and cast a final glance at Julia. She remained occupied. As he stepped through the doorway, he sensed her eyes lingering on him. He grinned quietly to himself as he ventured out into the world. He would surely return. The subsequent days settled into a well-known rhythm. Each morning, William made his way to the diner at the same hour, consistently opting for a cup of coffee. Initially, Julia feigned ignorance. However, she soon came to understand that his presence had woven itself into the fabric of her daily life. He consistently initiated a dialogue. Gradually, their conversations flowed with greater ease. Julia became familiar with him. Unbeknownst to her, anticipation began to blossom within her as she awaited his arrival each morning, eager to see him step through the door. One day, while he awaited his coffee, William leaned against the counter and inquired, "Do you have a moment?" She cast him a cautious glance. "It varies. I have something to share with you." Julia paused for a moment, yet her curiosity ultimately won out. "Understood." William retrieved his phone and accessed a photograph. He pivoted the screen in her direction, unveiling the graceful exterior of a seaside hotel. "This is one of the hotels owned by my family." Her eyes widened in astonishment. "Is that yours?" "In a sense, I hold the rightful claim to it. Indeed, I assist in managing it." Julia examined the photograph intently. "That sounds amazing." He beamed with delight. "Additionally, there is a cafe located within." "That certainly adds an intriguing twist," he chuckled. "I anticipated you would respond that way." Julia returned the phone and folded her arms across her chest. "Surely, you have some familiarity with locations like that, don't you?" William gave a slight shrug. "I was raised in the midst of that realm." However, I've come to understand that luxury isn't all there is. She arched an eyebrow. What is the reason? He paused for a moment, lost in thought before responding. At times, the most precious treasures are discovered in the most unassuming locations. Julia found herself at a loss for words. His words carried a weight, a resonance that struck a chord within me. Just as she was about to speak, the diner became bustling once more, pulling her back into the rhythm of her duties. Yet that morning, for the very first time, she sensed an enigmatic quality about William that eluded her comprehension. Yet, there was an inexplicable urge within her to uncover the truth. As the diner wrapped up for the night, Julia made her way outside and headed toward the bus stop. It had been a long day, yet an unfamiliar sensation stirred within her. She found herself uncertain about what it could be. Upon arriving at the stop, she rested against the post, allowing her eyes to flutter shut for a brief moment. Has it already come to a close? She blinked rapidly, taken aback to find William there, casually leaning against a car that was unmistakably different from the one she had seen just a few nights ago. What brings you here? He grinned. I was thinking of offering you a lift home this evening. Julia folded her arms, a look of doubt on her face. Are you working on settling another obligation? Perhaps. She bit her lip, her gaze lingering on him for a moment. At last, she let out a deep sigh and swung open the car door. With a grin, William settled into the driver's seat. While he was behind the wheel, Julia stole a glance at him. There was an instinct within her that suggested William was more than just a typical patron. For the first time, she found herself pondering the truth behind his story. How about we engage in a fun little activity with those who focus solely on the comments? Drop pizza in the comments below. Only those who reach this point will truly comprehend. Let us proceed with the narrative. As William navigated the vibrant streets of the city, Julia gazed out the window, observing the streetlights dance upon the glass. The journey was serene, yet far from unpleasant. Conversely, the moment held a certain allure that was hard to ignore. Why do I have this nagging feeling that I should have turned down this ride? She inquired, shattering the stillness. William wore a sly grin, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Is it because I'm somewhat familiar? Precisely. With her arms crossed, she feigned a look of seriousness. You might be a bit unhinged. He chuckled softly, a bemused smile crossing his face as he shook his head. Clearly, if that were the case, my intentions would have been evident by now. Indeed. Julia emitted a soft, amused laugh. However, I remain uncertain about placing my trust in you. What's your strategy for uncovering that information? She feigned contemplation. I suppose a few weeks of observation will be necessary. Weeks? That appears to be quite an extended duration. Building trust with someone is a gradual process that unfolds over time. William gave a subtle nod. That seems reasonable. The vehicle veered onto a more tranquil road, and Julia understood they were nearing her home. That sparked her curiosity about William. He appeared effortlessly composed, yet he kept his personal life largely to himself. What about you? She inquired, casting a sidelong look at him. What is your place of residence? William paused for a fleeting instant, yet maintained his grin. The heart of the city. Incredible. It's likely one of those impressive structures I notice while riding the bus. Perhaps. She squinted her eyes. It seems you enjoy being a bit elusive, don't you? I enjoy maintaining an air of intrigue. Julia let out a gentle laugh. I trust it's not a hidden truth shrouded in shadows. Nothing gloomy. Merely a touch dull. Her brow furrowed in discontent. What leads you to that conclusion? William inhaled deeply, appearing to select his words with great deliberation. I believe I dedicated too much time adhering to a predetermined script, fulfilling the expectations placed upon me. She was uncertain about his meaning, yet she sensed his sincerity. Perhaps it's time to revise the narrative. He grinned. Perhaps. The vehicle came to a halt before Julia's unassuming residence. She released her seatbelt and faced him. I appreciate the lift. It was my pleasure. She opened the door, hesitating for a moment before crossing the threshold. Will I be seeing you tomorrow? William arched an eyebrow. At the cafe? Where else might one look? He offered a warm smile. Absolutely, looking forward to it tomorrow. Julia gave a slight nod and gracefully exited the car, gently shutting the door behind her. As she ascended the porch steps, a subtle smile began to grace her lips. The following morning, William arrived at the diner just like he always did. The doorbell chimed softly as he entered, and Julia turned her head slightly, anticipating his presence. You truly embody the essence of integrity. Without fail. He settled onto a stool at the counter. Today, I feel prepared to explore new possibilities. With her arms crossed, a hint of amusement danced in her eyes. Exploring the realm of coffee options? Absolutely. What would you suggest? Julia inclined her head, observing him intently for a brief moment, before reaching for a mug and concocting something. You appear to be in search of something robust yet smooth. Was that meant to be flattering or derogatory? Merely a note to consider. She set the cup down before him. Give it a go. William savored a sip, experiencing the rich and robust essence of the coffee. Excellent. I understand. With a contented smile, she returned to her tasks. In the meantime, William surveyed his surroundings. This place appealed to him. He appreciated Julia's vibrant spirit, her engaging interactions with customers, and the comforting simplicity of her routine, which stood in stark contrast to the life he knew. As the days went by and he lingered longer at the diner, Julia began to observe subtle details that piqued her curiosity. William never disclosed the specifics of his workplace. He merely mentioned his involvement in the hotel industry, yet refrained from providing any specifics. His habits were polished, evident in the way he cradled his cup, dissected flavors, and spoke of travels to destinations that were not easily reached by the average person. Julia began to ponder the true nature of his identity. One afternoon, as she polished the counter, she chose to inquire, You never mentioned the name of your hotel. William paused, his gaze lingering on her for a heartbeat before he responded. It seems to me that it holds little significance. Ah, I see, it's a mystery then. He offered a subtle smirk. Perhaps. Julia folded her arms across her chest. It seems you enjoy maintaining an enigmatic presence, don't you? I prefer to steer clear of specific evaluations. Her brow furrowed in discontent. What type of evaluations? William released a soft exhale. The kind that causes a shift in how people perceive you once they discover your identity. Julia examined his reply closely. There was an unsettling quality to it. Just as she was about to delve deeper, a customer entered, diverting her focus. William observed her return to her tasks, a subtle pressure forming in his chest. He understood that eventually, Julia would uncover the truth, and he dreaded the moment it would alter everything they shared. As dusk settled, Julia found herself heading home when an intriguing sight captured her attention. While strolling along the sidewalk, she caught sight of a high-end vehicle stationed on a nearby side street. And who was emerging from it? William. He failed to notice her presence. He found himself sidetracked, engaged in conversation with a man in a suit whose demeanor was notably grave. Julia ceased her distant observation. There was an unsettling quality to that scene. The William she remembered rode the bus, communicated plainly, and often claimed his life was dull. However, this William? He was attired with utmost elegance, enveloped in an aura of refinement. Julia experienced a tightness in her stomach. Was he not the person he claimed to be? With a deep breath, she resolved to uncover the truth. For the first time, a doubt crept into her mind about whether she had erred in placing her trust in him. Julia attempted to dismiss the discomfort that had been swelling within her ever since she spotted William on that street, emerging from a luxury car. He had an aura that subtly contradicted the persona he sought to convey. He communicated in a straightforward manner, appearing to be just an average person, yet subtle hints were beginning to indicate something more beneath the surface. In the days that followed, she endeavored to maintain a facade of normalcy, yet the lingering doubt clung to her thoughts. Who was William, in truth? As he arrived at the diner the following morning, just like always, Julia observed him with heightened attention. He wore his usual casual attire, yet there was an understated assurance in his demeanor that seemed out of place for someone leading an unassuming existence. "Good morning," he remarked, perched at the counter. "Good morning," Julia responded, maintaining a calm demeanor as she brewed his coffee. "There's a certain gravity to your demeanor today." She glanced upward, her mind wandering through a myriad of thoughts. "Positive aspects," she shrugged, still pondering. William inclined his head, observing her intently for a brief moment. "How may I assist you?" Julia paused for a moment, then inquired, "You mentioned you're in the hotel industry, correct?" "Indeed. What is the name of the hotel where you are employed?" William smiled, yet this time his smile held a different quality, as though he had anticipated that question all along. "What prompts your inquiry?" "Inquisitiveness." He inhaled deeply before responding. "Stone Hotels." Julia blinked several times. That name was familiar to her. It stood as one of the largest hotel chains in the nation. Opulent, elite, lavish, a realm distant from her reality. "And you?" She hesitated, searching for the perfect expression. "Are you employed by Stone Hotels?" William acknowledged with a nod. "Absolutely." She observed him intently for a moment, allowing the weight of that realization to settle in. "What is it that you do in that place?" He paused to savor his coffee before responding. "I am among the owners." The stillness that hung in the air stretched on, far beyond what Julia found comfortable. Her stomach plummeted. And that was the conclusion. He was more than just a worker or a figure in the background. He was among the proprietors. William Stone. At last, all the pieces fell into place. The manner in which he articulated his thoughts, the elegance with which he presented himself, the opulent vehicle she glimpsed the previous evening. He had concealed this from her. Why was it never shared with me? William released a quiet breath of exasperation. "I wanted you to understand me without my last name affecting your perception." She bit her lower lip, a wave of unease washing over her. "Your essence remains unchanged." He raised his gaze to meet hers. "It remains unaffected by me. However, for many individuals, it certainly does." Julia folded her arms across her chest. "Do you really believe I would have acted any differently had I been aware?" He gave a slight shrug. "I'm uncertain, yet I was hesitant to embrace that risk." She paused, lost in thought as she attempted to make sense of it all. She finally admitted, "You were right. This certainly alters my perception of you." William observed her intently. "Could you clarify what you mean?" Julia released a gentle breath. "At last, clarity has emerged regarding the perplexities that once eluded my grasp. You visited this spot daily as if it were your sole coffee destination, yet someone of your caliber could easily frequent the finest cafes in the city." William offered a faint smile. "And who claims this isn't among the finest spots?" She blinked, taken aback by his response. "Do you truly enjoy being here?" "I certainly do." She felt uncertain about how to reply. Just as the conversation was about to progress, a staff member from the diner beckoned Julia for assistance with an order. She nodded and stepped away, yet her thoughts drifted to distant places. Later that afternoon, as Julia stepped out of the diner, she spotted William casually leaning against his car, patiently awaiting her arrival. She paused briefly, folding her arms across her chest. "Are you keeping up with me now?" He chuckled softly. "I wanted to ensure you'd be open to another journey." Julia feigned contemplation. It varies. Will you continue to conceal your true self? William beamed with delight. I vow to embrace total honesty moving forward. She observed him for a brief moment before letting out a sigh and entering the car. While driving, William stole occasional glances at her. Are you upset with me? Julia chuckled softly. I'm uncertain. I'm simply trying to grasp why someone such as yourself desires to be regarded as an everyday individual. With his gaze fixed ahead, he replied, for there are moments when being just a regular person feels more authentic. She observed him intently for a moment. What is it that you truly desire? William paused, lost in thought. I'm in the process of unraveling that mystery. Julia found herself at a loss for words. The remainder of the journey was serene, yet not unpleasant. As they pulled up to her house, Julia paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind before she finally opened the car door. I appreciate the lift. Whenever you need. With a nod, she gently shut the door behind her. Yet, just before stepping inside, she turned her head to catch a glimpse of him, still seated and observing her intently. That night, as she lay in bed, Julia sensed a shift within her, a stirring of something new beginning to unfold. In some inexplicable way, William found himself woven into the fabric of it all. The following day, Julia occupied herself with various distractions, striving to keep her thoughts away from William. Upon discovering that he was among the owners of Stone Hotels, the situation became increasingly intricate. It wasn't his wealth that concerned her. Rather, it was the disquieting fact that he had concealed it from her for such an extended period. That evening, upon her return home, her mother observed that she seemed preoccupied. Is everything okay, my dear? Julia let out a deep breath, her posture slumping at the table. I encountered an individual. Her mother arched an eyebrow. Is that really a negative aspect? I'm uncertain. He doesn't quite match the image I had of him. Her mother smiled, a glimmer of amusement in her eyes. Was he untruthful with you? Not quite. He merely omitted a couple of details. So, you're uncertain about whether you can place your trust in him? Julia gave a slight nod. A cup of tea was set before her by her mother. Darling, there are moments when individuals conceal aspects of their true selves due to the fear of judgment. Perhaps he was simply biding his time for the perfect opportunity to share his thoughts with you. Julia bit her lower lip, contemplating, perhaps, yet despite that, a lingering unease stirred within her. The following morning, William arrived at the diner right on schedule. Julia had anticipated his arrival. Yet, on this occasion, there was an unmistakable quality about him that felt altered. His eyes held a certain depth, as if they were burdened by unspoken worries. She filled his cup with coffee and rested against the counter. Is everything all right? He swirled his spoon in the cup, contemplating his response. Your words from yesterday have been on my mind. Concerning what topic? Concealing my true self. Julia crossed her arms, poised and expectant. William inhaled deeply. You were correct. I regret not sharing that with you. She blinked, taken aback by his candidness. It's not truly about the finances, William. It seems as though there's a significant aspect of your life that you preferred to keep concealed. He gave a slight nod. At times, it seems as though my existence resembles a confinement rather than anything fulfilling. Julia scowled. Could you clarify what you mean? He paused for a moment, savoring a sip of coffee before proceeding. From a young age, I was prepared to assume control of the company. There was never an option for me. All choices were dictated on my behalf. The individuals I surrounded myself with were selected by my family. She observed him intently. Did you truly never desire that? I always preferred to be among those who value more than just wealth. Julia paused in silence for a moment. At last, pieces were falling into place. Is that the reason you found yourself in this place? William offered a faint smile. I suppose that's the case. She emitted a brief chuckle. So, what did you discover? He gazed at her, cradling his cup. Something genuine. Julia's gaze fixed on his. She was taken aback by his response, yet a warmth blossomed within her at his words. Just as she was about to reply, a customer beckoned for her attention, prompting her to step away. Yet, that dialogue lingered in her thoughts throughout the entire day. As her shift came to a close, Julia stepped outside and spotted William casually leaning against his car. With her arms crossed, she feigned a look of seriousness. This is starting to feel like a routine, wouldn't you agree? He grinned. I assumed you would have adapted to it by this point. What if I expressed a desire to head home by myself today? In that case, I would honor that decision. She gazed at him for a brief moment before swinging the car door open. However, I believe I'll embark on the journey. With a grin, he climbed in and turned the key, bringing the engine to life. This time, the journey unfolded with a sense of ease. The burden of doubt that had lingered between them had vanished. Would you like to make a small diversion before we return home? William inquired abruptly. Julia arched an eyebrow. Where to go next? It's an unexpected delight. She paused briefly, then gave a slight shrug. Very well. William navigated the winding roads for a brief while until they arrived at a quaint park, gently illuminated by vintage street lamps. A gazebo stood proudly at the center, encircled by a serene lake and complemented by inviting wooden benches. Julia surveyed her surroundings, utterly enchanted. This is my first time visiting this place. This location remains a hidden gem to most. They exited the vehicle and strolled over to a nearby bench. Julia settled into her chair, gazing at the lake where the shimmering lights danced upon the surface of the water. Is this a place you frequent? At times, when I require some contemplation. She stole a sidelong glance at him. What thoughts are occupying your mind at this moment? He angled his face in her direction. This has truly been the most wonderful experience I've had in quite some time. For a fleeting moment, Julia's eyes shimmered before her gaze returned to the lake. The quiet that lingered between them felt perfectly at ease. The silence was unlike any other. A quiet that resonates with significance. As William left Julia at her doorstep that evening, an unspoken shift lingered in the air between them. She entered and shut the door, pausing for a moment, leaning against the solid wood, her heart racing uncontrollably. Outside, William lingered in his car, his gaze fixed on her house as it reflected in the rearview mirror. He realized he was succumbing to the depths of love. Yet, uncertainty lingered within him about whether he was truly prepared for it. For the first time, he understood that he might not be in command of his emotions. In the days that ensued, Julia endeavored to dismiss the reality that a transformation was occurring within her. What began as a mere curiosity regarding William had evolved into a more profound feeling. Yet she was reluctant to acknowledge it. She hesitated to allow herself to feel anything for someone who remained an enigma in countless aspects. William returned to the diner each morning without fail. He was perpetually present, perched at the counter, anticipating his coffee. Yet, on this occasion, Julia observed him in a new light. With the revelation of his true identity, subtle nuances began to emerge, capturing her attention. The subtle movements, the meticulous examination of his surroundings, the deliberate evasion of specific inquiries regarding his existence. She yearned to place her trust in him. Yet, an inner whisper urged her that there remained a truth yet to be uncovered. That afternoon, as she tidied up the tables post-lunch, a soft murmur drifted from the television affixed to the diner's wall. Last night, William Stone was spotted exiting a high-profile event at the family-owned Stone Hotel. Reports indicate that he is poised to assume the role of president of the company, continuing the legacy established by his father. The dish in Julia's grasp almost tumbled from her hold. She glanced at the TV, a knot forming in her stomach. On the screen, William appeared flawlessly attired in a tuxedo, encircled by reporters and business executives. He appeared utterly transformed from the person she once recognized, the individual who expressed a desire to break free from that existence, the one who claimed he refused to tread the path laid out by his family. It was all a deception, she whispered, a profound heaviness enveloping her heart. Is that you, Julia? A colleague reached out, yet her voice felt far away. Julia remained silent. With a swift motion, she snatched her apron, loosened it with ease, and strode out of the diner. She was in search of answers. The journey to the hotel seemed to stretch on far longer than she had anticipated. With each step, the weight seemed to increase, pressing down more than before. As she approached the entrance, the security guards regarded her with a hint of skepticism. "Can I assist you?" one of them inquired. "I'm here to meet William Stone." The man scowled. "Mr. Stone is busy." Julia's heart raced with frustration. "Then tell him Julia is here. He'll see me." The guard paused, uncertainty flickering across his face, but ultimately reached for the radio and spoke softly into it. Moments later, a reply came through, and he nodded, granting her passage. Julia entered the hotel lobby, an unsettling sense of not belonging washing over her. The floors shimmered, the chandeliers loomed large, and the individuals surrounding her appeared to inhabit an entirely different realm. And then, he appeared. William descended the staircase, clad in a suit that fit him impeccably. He appeared more solemn, distant. As soon as he caught sight of her, his eyes flickered with surprise. "Julia, what brings you here?" She folded her arms, attempting to suppress her frustration. "I should be asking you that," he said with a frown. "What do you mean?" "I caught you on TV, William. You were at an event last night, discussing your plans to take over the family business." He ran a hand through his hair, releasing a long sigh. "Julia, you deceived me." His gaze sharpened. "I never lied." "Oh, is that so? Then tell me, William, what were you doing here last night while telling me you didn't want this world?" He was silent for a few seconds. "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." He took a deep breath, looking at her. "It's not," Julia felt her chest tighten. "You led me to think you desired something else, that you sought something genuine. And I truly do. But that's not how it appears." He moved nearer, gently grasping her hands in his. "Julia, please, hear me out." She withdrew her hands, taking a step back. "I believed in you, William, and now I realize I was foolish." He gazed at her, sensing the distance growing between them. "Please stay. I feel like I don't fit in here, William." "Do you think I do?" She stepped back, her eyes glistening with the impending tears. "I don't know what to believe anymore." With those words, she turned and exited the hotel. William stood in the center of the lobby, a sense of hollowness expanding within him. He was at a loss for a solution, yet he was certain he couldn't bear to let her go. That evening, Julia perched on her porch, drawing her knees close to her chest. Her mother stepped outside to see how she was doing and settled down next to her. "Do you want to discuss it?" Julia sighed. "I believed he was unique." Her mother offered a faint smile. "Perhaps he is, but everyone errs at times." Julia's brow furrowed. "What if he was never truthful with me?" Her mother gazed at her with warmth. "There's only one way to find out." Julia remained silent, gazing at the sky. Yet, in that instant, she questioned whether she truly desired to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, William sat alone in his hotel office. He gazed out at the sprawling city through the window, a heavy burden resting on his shoulders. His entire life had been a quest for something genuine, and now that it was within his grasp, the thought of losing it was unbearable. He refused to let that happen. He wouldn't. As the clock approached midnight, Julia made the decision to step inside. The cool breeze caressed her skin, and the stillness of the neighborhood seemed to weigh down even more than usual. Her mother had already retreated to her dreams, yet the gravity of their discussion lingered in her thoughts. She yearned to trust that William had been truthful, that he was merely caught in the crossfire of his current existence and his aspirations. But how could she place her faith in someone who appeared to inhabit two starkly contrasting realms? Julia settled onto her bed, her gaze fixed on the shadowy ceiling above. No matter how hard she attempted to dismiss it, the pain in her chest was undeniable. Her feelings for him ran deeper than they ought to. Yet, feeling deeply wasn't sufficient. William spent the night wide awake. In his office, staring out at the twinkling city lights, he sensed that everything around him was crumbling. Julia had been the first to look past his last name, the first to regard him as just another person, and now she viewed him as everyone else did. He had always been indifferent to others' opinions, yet the thought of Julia's judgment filled him with dread. He reached for his phone, crafted a message, but hesitated to hit send. What could he possibly convey? He yearned to clarify everything, to ensure she knew he had never been dishonest about his emotions. But how could he demonstrate that? The reality was, for the first time in his existence, William felt utterly adrift. In the days that ensued, Julia and William led entirely distinct lives. She immersed herself in her job, attempting to suppress the depth of her longing for him. He immersed himself in his family's business, yet struggled to concentrate. Every morning at the diner felt lacking without William at the counter, patiently awaiting his coffee. Julia attempted to act as if it didn't affect her, that his absence was insignificant, but deep down, it truly was. She longed for him. She longed for their dialogues, their teasing exchanges, the way he gazed at her as if he perceived something within her that no one else could. Yet, she couldn't simply let go of the past. She couldn't allow him to re-enter her life without certainty that his intentions were genuine. William understood that action was necessary. Simply waiting for Julia's forgiveness wouldn't suffice. He needed to demonstrate his commitment to transformation. There was only one path forward. That evening, William resolved to take action. He decided to leave Stone Hotels. It was the only way to demonstrate to Julia and himself that he wasn't confined to the life his family had envisioned for him. The following day, he arranged a meeting with his father. "I want to leave the company." His father fixed him with a long, penetrating gaze before folding his arms. "This is a joke, isn't it?" "No, I'm being serious." The older man emitted a soft chuckle. "You believe you can simply walk away?" "I know I can." His father scrutinized him, his expression growing stern. "All because of that girl?" William inhaled deeply, maintaining his calm. "This isn't about her. It's about me. You're on the verge of discarding all that we've built together. This isn't something I chose, it's something that was imposed upon me." His father paused, the weight of the moment hanging in the air before he exhaled a deep sigh. "Do you even understand what you're doing?" William nodded. "For the first time in my life, yes." Throughout the city, Julia was striving to move forward. Yet, everything grew more challenging when she encountered the newspaper headlines the following morning. "William Stone resigns from Stone Hotels, embarks on a new journey." Julia perused the article multiple times, struggling to accept its contents. Had he truly departed from the company? Her heart raced. This couldn't possibly be a mere coincidence. Had he done it for her? A knot twisted in her stomach, and before she could reconsider, she snatched her phone and sent a message. "Julia, we need to talk." Moments later, her phone buzzed with a response. "William, please share the details." Julia inhaled deeply before answering. "Let's meet at the cafe by the park." The cafe was almost deserted when Julia made her entrance. She settled into a chair by the window, attempting to calm her breath. Moments later, William stepped inside. He appeared transformed, a sense of levity about him, yet there was an undeniable gravity in his demeanor. He moved deliberately, taking a seat opposite her. For a brief interval, silence enveloped them both. Then Julia finally shattered the stillness. You actually left the company? William nodded. Yes, why? He maintained her gaze. It wasn't what I desired. She gulped. And what is it that you seek? William inhaled deeply before responding. I yearn to create something uniquely mine, something that holds deep significance. She observed him closely, looking for any hint of deceit, yet all she perceived was genuine honesty. And what about me? She inquired gently. William leaned in slightly. You have always held a special place in my heart. Julia felt a shiver run through her. I was uncertain about trusting you, William. And now? She paused, her silence stretching before she finally exhaled deeply. Now, I feel ready to give it a chance. A subtle smile graced William's lips. I promise I won't let you down, Julia nodded. In that instant, she realized that something had genuinely shifted. They had transcended the status of mere strangers who crossed paths on a bus. A new chapter was unfolding, something genuine. The days following their encounter at the cafe carried an unexpected serenity. Julia and William maintained their connection, albeit with a sense of trepidation, as if navigating through uncharted waters. She yearned to trust that he had transformed. Truthfully, all signs suggested he had. William appeared more carefree, more authentic, yet a lingering hesitation within her prevented her from completely accepting this altered dynamic. Perhaps it was fear, or perhaps it was simply difficult to fathom that someone like him could genuinely opt for a different direction. One afternoon, as Julia was tending to her duties at the diner, she noticed a car come to a halt across the street. She identified William even before he emerged from the vehicle. He entered the diner and settled onto a stool at the counter, reminiscent of days gone by. I thought you had forgotten the way here, Julia teased while pouring him a cup of coffee. William smiled. It's tough to forget when this is the finest coffee around, she laughed gently, resting against the counter. So, what have you been up to? He swirled his spoon in the cup before responding. I'm focused on a new project. Julia raised an eyebrow, intrigued. A new venture? Yes, I want to start a hotel, something entirely distinct from my previous experiences. Something intimate, more personal, more inviting. She frowned. You've dedicated your entire career to luxury hotel chains, and now you wish to create something more intimate? William nodded. I desire something that holds genuine significance, something that resonates deeply with me. Julia observed him intently. And where do you intend to establish this hotel? He paused to sip his coffee before responding. In the seaside town my parents used to bring me to during my childhood. She blinked, taken aback. That location had never come up in conversation. He offered a faint smile. It had never seemed significant, until this moment. Julia sensed a warmth blossoming in her chest. He was truly transforming. And how do you intend to begin? William gazed directly into her eyes. I was curious if you would like to be involved. Her heart raced. What do you mean? He leaned in slightly. You want to start your own bakery, correct? She nodded slowly. I do. Then why not do it inside my hotel? A surge of disbelief washed over her. You're serious? Absolutely. She blinked several times, attempting to grasp the concept. I hadn't considered that before. However, let's reflect on it now. I desire for this to be a collaborative endeavor. Julia's stomach churned with unease. Words eluded her grasp. That night, sleep slipped through her fingers like sand. William's proposal resonated within her thoughts. It encompassed all her aspirations. A genuine opportunity to establish her own enterprise. Yet, it carried its own dangers. What if it failed? What if this only drew them nearer, only to shatter them once more? Still, a quiet voice within her suggested that perhaps the gamble was worth taking. The following day, Julia found herself at the same cafe where their last conversation had unfolded, waiting for William. He was already seated, anticipation hanging in the air. As she settled into the chair opposite him, his gaze fixed on her, brimming with expectation. "Have you considered my proposal?" he inquired. She inhaled deeply, gathering her thoughts before responding. "Indeed." "And?" Julia bit her lip, a smile breaking through. "I accept." William's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Are you certain?" "I am. However, I want to approach this in my own style." He smiled. "It has always been your way, Julia." She released a gentle laugh, feeling unexpectedly buoyant. In that instant, a plan crystallized before them. Indeed, they had one. Julia felt a stirring within her, a profound awareness that she was on the brink of an extraordinary journey, one that would irrevocably alter the course of her life, something she had never dared to envision. The subsequent days were filled with fervor. Julia and William immersed themselves in meticulously planning every aspect of the new hotel and the bakery that would grace its interior. The coastal town they selected for their venture was quaint, inviting, and enveloped by stunning landscapes that evoked a feeling of fresh starts. Julia had always been rooted in the bustling city. The thought of abandoning all she knew for an unfamiliar adventure filled her with both fear and exhilaration. William appeared to be a breath of fresh air, embodying a sense of lightness and enthusiasm that intrigued her. For the first time, he was embarking on a journey of his own, free from the guiding hands of his family. "This is going to work," he declared one evening as they sat on the beach, reviewing the hotel plans. "You sound very confident," Julia replied with a smile, hugging her knees. "Because I am, and you should be too," she sighed. "It's just, this all feels too good to be true." William turned to her. "Why?" "Because I never imagined I would encounter a chance like this." He grasped her hand. "You are worthy of this moment. You've put in the effort." Julia gazed at him, recognizing the honesty in his eyes. "I simply hope for a positive outcome." "It will. And even if it's not flawless immediately, we'll navigate it together." She nodded slowly, permitting herself to unwind just a bit more. Ultimately, William had always provided her with no cause for skepticism regarding his assurances. The following morning, they set out to explore the location designated for the hotel's construction. It was an expansive piece of land adjacent to the ocean, where a grand mansion had once graced the landscape. "This place has history," Julia said, taking in the aged structure. "Yes, that's why I want to restore it instead of tearing it down and building something new." She smiled. "That resonates deeply." William turned his gaze towards her. "Have you considered a name for the bakery?" Julia paused for a moment, then a smile spread across her face. "La Dolce Vita." He arched an eyebrow. "Sweet life?" "Precisely. Because that's what I desire," William smiled. "So, is that it? Your dream now has a name." Her heart raced. For the first time, it felt tangible. As the days unfolded, an increasing number of details regarding the project began to align. Julia divided her time between her shifts at the cafe and attending meetings with William and the architects managing the hotel's renovation. It was tiring, yet with each day that went by, she sensed she was crafting something of genuine significance. And beyond that, she understood she was falling for William. Not merely for the notion of being with him, but for the man he was evolving into. A person who was emerging from his family's shadow to forge something genuine. On a chilly evening, as they strolled along the shore, William grasped Julia's hand and abruptly halted. She turned to him, a look of confusion on her face. "What is it?" He paused for a moment, weighing his words. "You understand that this," he indicated the space between them, "isn't solely about the hotel, correct?" Julia's heart quickened. "What do you mean?" William inhaled deeply. "This has always been about you." For a moment, she felt as if the air had been taken from her lungs. "William, I may struggle to express myself, but you must understand that you transformed everything for me." She blinked a few times, attempting to grasp his words. I share that sentiment. He offered a faint smile. Then he made a promise. What is it? He tightened his grip on her hand. That you won't flee when challenges arise. Julia felt a lump in her throat. I promise. In that moment, she understood she was precisely where she was destined to be. As the days transformed into weeks, the progress of the hotel and bakery surged ahead with remarkable speed. Julia found herself more immersed in this endeavor than ever before. Witnessing her vision materialize was nothing short of extraordinary. She dedicated countless hours alongside the architects, meticulously selecting each detail for the space where her cafe would come to life. Meanwhile, William concentrated on the hotel renovations, ensuring that everything unfolded as intended. For the first time in his life, he sensed a newfound grip on his own destiny. Yet, as is often the case, the path ahead would not be without its challenges. One morning, while Julia sorted through papers in the makeshift office she occupied, William entered with a grave demeanor. There's an issue at hand, he stated, cutting to the chase. She scowled. What just occurred? The construction firm delivered a report indicating that the renovation expenses will be double our initial estimate. Julia's eyes grew wide with disbelief. What are you saying? William passed the report to her. The building structure is older than anticipated. Reinforcing the foundation will require additional time and funds. Julia reviewed the document, a wave of unease washing over her. We had established a budget, but unforeseen circumstances arise. She inhaled deeply. What are our options? William leaned against the table, a hint of worry in his voice. I still have some savings, but if we take on this additional expense, we might have to push back the opening. Julia glanced at him, her expression filled with doubt. What if we consider some adjustments? He shook his head. I don't want to alter anything we envisioned. This place needs to be precisely as we dreamed it. She swept her fingers through her hair, lost in thought. Then we'll postpone it, she decided. William glanced up at her. Are you certain? Indeed. I would prefer to take a few extra months and approach it properly rather than hasten and jeopardize everything. A faint smile graced his lips. That's one of the qualities I find most admirable in you. She raised an eyebrow. What? Your patience. Your commitment to doing things correctly is admirable. Julia smiled gently. I suppose I'm starting to embrace the journey. He grasped her hand firmly. We face this together. She gave a slight nod. In that instant, she understood that, in spite of the obstacles, all uncertainties had vanished. They were crafting something truly valuable, something that was worth the wait. The postponement of the opening presented its own set of challenges. As whispers of uncertainty began to circulate, casting shadows over the project, doubts crept into the minds of some. Speculations fluttered through the town, suggesting that the hotel might remain unfinished. Yet, Julia and William remained resolute. They frequented the site daily, monitoring each phase of the renovation and ensuring everything remained on schedule. Gradually, the hotel started to emerge. The bakery did as well. Julia began experimenting with recipes, fine-tuning the menu to craft something truly distinctive. This is incredible, William remarked after savoring a slice of the freshly baked cake. She beamed with delight. You say that about everything I create because everything you create truly is incredible, she chuckled. You're a wonderful patron, and I'll be the most devoted patron at your cafe. She gazed at him affectionately. It's surprising how life can unfold in unexpected ways. I feel the same. He reached for her hand across the table, and I find myself grateful for this journey. Julia's eyes shimmered with a newfound light. So am I. In that fleeting moment, she sensed that every hardship had been justified. Yet, life has a way of challenging individuals time and again. One day, as Julia meticulously arranged the final details of the bakery's furniture, William received a phone call that visibly unsettled him. "What is it?" Julia inquired, noticing the worry etched across his face as he clutched his phone. He inhaled deeply before responding. "My father," she frowned. "What does he want?" William slipped the phone back into his pocket. "He says he needs to talk to me, that it's urgent." Julia felt a knot in her stomach. "Are you going?" she asked. He hesitated. "I need to know what he wants." She nodded slowly, a hint of concern in her eyes. "All right," she said, "but just be careful." He gently cupped her face in his hands, a tender gesture that spoke volumes. "I'm not going back." She shut her eyes briefly. "I hope not." William pressed his lips to her forehead before departing. Yet, Julia couldn't dispel the sense that this dialogue signified impending trouble. Hours later, William came back, his demeanor even graver. "What happened?" Julia asked. He let out a sigh and settled into the chair beside her. "My father wants me to return to the company." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "He claimed I was making a mistake by investing in this hotel, that it was absurd to open something so small when I could be managing something much larger." Julia grasped his hand. "And what did you say?" William shut his eyes for a brief moment before meeting her gaze. "That I'm not going back." She exhaled a breath she hadn't known she was holding. "Are you certain?" "Without a doubt." She smiled, feeling a wave of relief. "So, that's the conclusion." William gave a nod. "I made this decision, Julia. I chose you." Tears began to gather in her eyes. She felt the warmth of his arms around her, a cocoon of reassurance. In that instant, they understood that their resolve was unbreakable. As the days went by, the hotel and bakery neared completion. The wait was almost over, just a bit more time. Julia gazed at the freshly renovated structure, her heart pounding with anticipation. She had accomplished it. They had achieved it. The sun hung brilliantly in the sky, casting its light upon the pristine waters of the coastal town. A gentle breeze wafted through the air, bringing with it the delightful aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm bread from the bakery's kitchen. Julia gazed at the completed building before her, her heart swelling with emotion. Let's engage in a little game with those who merely skim the comments. Drop "hot dog" in the comments. Only those who reach this point will get it. Now, let's return to the narrative. After months of diligent effort, the hotel and the bakery stood ready for their debut. She surveyed the main entrance, taking in every detail she had contributed to shaping. The expansive windows welcomed an abundance of natural light, the chairs and tables were thoughtfully arranged for comfort, and the delightful scent of the pastries she had crafted that morning enveloped the space with a sense of warmth. Across the street, William engaged in conversation with several hotel staff members. He appeared more buoyant, more whole than ever before. The joy radiating from his face was unmistakable. As he wrapped up his conversation and approached Julia, a smile spread across her face. "Looks like we did it," she remarked, absorbing the scene around her. "We didn't just do it. We crafted something extraordinary," William responded, grasping her hand. "I'm feeling anxious." "Why?" She exhaled heavily. "What if it doesn't work? What if no one shows up?" William squeezed her hand gently, a gesture meant to reassure her that everything would be fine. "Trust me, it's gonna be a success." Julia smiled, attempting to absorb his unwavering confidence. She held on to the hope that all would unfold beautifully. The grand opening commenced at noon. As the bakery doors swung open to welcome the public, the first customers trickled in, one by one. Julia remained occupied, crafting orders in the kitchen as the servers delivered coffee and pastries to the tables. The sensation of witnessing people savor her creations for the first time was beyond words. "This cake is exquisite," a customer exclaimed while savoring a bite of lemon pie. "I've never had coffee this well made before," another remarked. Each compliment filled Julia's heart with a bit more warmth. William navigated the hotel, engaging with guests and ensuring all was in order. As he strolled past the bakery and spotted Julia, a smile spread across his face. "I told you it would be a success," she chuckled. "Perhaps you were correct," he winked. "I am always correct." Julia rolled her eyes, yet a smile crept onto her face. As the hours passed and darkness enveloped the scene, Julia and William found themselves at an outdoor table, gazing at the ocean illuminated by the moonlight. "This is a promising beginning," William remarked, arms crossed, his voice filled with wonder. It truly was remarkable. She reclined in her chair, inhaling deeply. "Can you believe this actually occurred?" "Of course you can. You put in the effort for this moment." Julia smiled, sensing the burdens of the past months finally dissipate. She gazed at William, and for an instant, time itself appeared to pause. "I never truly expressed my gratitude," she said. He lifted an eyebrow. "Thank me for what?" "For having faith in me." William gently placed his hand over hers on the table. She had always held faith in him. A gentle warmth blossomed within Julia's chest. Never before had she experienced such happiness. He smiled, observing her for a few moments before replying. "Me neither." In that instant, Julia sensed that she was precisely where she was destined to be. The following morning, Julia rose with the sun and made her way to the bakery before the doors swung open. She was determined to ensure that everything was in place. While she meticulously arranged items on the counter, the sound of the door creaking open caught her attention. She turned around and spotted William standing there, a bouquet of flowers in hand. "What's this?" she asked, taken aback. "Just a little gift for the owner of the best bakery ever," he replied. Julia chuckled, accepting the bouquet. "You're incredible. I have no doubt that I exist." She inhaled deeply, gazing at him. "Are you happy?" William moved closer, tenderly cradling her face. "I've never felt this happy." Julia's heart raced. "Me neither," she replied. Then, without a moment's pause, William leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was gentle and affectionate, encapsulating all they had experienced together. In that instant, Julia understood. She realized that despite the obstacles, uncertainties, and transformations, this marked the start of something greater, something that, for the first time, required no definitions or assurances. With William, she had at last discovered what she had long sought. The bakery and the hotel were thriving beyond Julia and William's wildest dreams. The initial days had proven successful, and the coastal town was quickly embracing their establishments as a fresh hub for both locals and visitors. Julia found herself busier than ever, yet each day of labor felt rewarding. Crafting pastries, engaging with customers, and witnessing the joy her coffee brought was a level of satisfaction she had never known before. Meanwhile, William immersed himself in every aspect of the hotel. He meticulously examined every room, diligently followed up on guest feedback, and guaranteed that each visitor's experience was impeccable. What began as a collective aspiration had transformed into a tangible achievement. Yet, destiny has a peculiar knack for challenging joy. That afternoon, as Julia sorted through the kitchen supplies, her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, yet an instinct urged her to pick it up. "Hello." A man's voice on the other end caused her heart to momentarily freeze. "Julia? It's been ages." Her grip on the phone tightened. "What do you want, Eric?" A low chuckle resonated from the other end. "I simply wanted to check in on you. I heard your bakery is thriving." Julia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. At that moment, the last person she wished to hear from was Eric, her former boyfriend. He represented a chapter she longed to leave behind, one filled with hollow promises and letdowns that had shown her the importance of caution. "I don't know how you got my number, but please don't call me again," she stated with conviction. "Julia, hold on." I only wanted to have a conversation. But she had already disconnected the call. Her heart raced uncontrollably. This was the last thing she wanted. Not at this moment. She inhaled deeply, attempting to regain her composure. Yet, despite several minutes of avoidance, the unease persisted. When William entered the bakery and noticed her preoccupied state, he sensed that something was amiss. "Is everything all right?" Julia paused briefly before responding. "Nothing major. Just an unwelcome call," he scowled. "Did someone trouble you?" She managed a smile. "It's nothing you should concern yourself with." William gently covered her hand with his on the table. "If someone has caused you distress, I would like to hear about it." She let out a sigh, sensing that she couldn't conceal her feelings from him. "It was my former partner." William paused, lost in thought. "Is there something he desires?" "I'm uncertain, and I prefer to remain in the dark." William gave a nod, yet Julia could see the tightness in his jaw. "You trust me, right?" she asked. He gazed into her eyes. "Of course I do." "Then there's no cause for concern." He managed a faint smile. However, Julia understood that William wouldn't simply drop this matter. The following day, as Julia immersed herself in her work at the bakery, William took it upon himself to investigate further. The thought of someone from Julia's past re-emerging to disrupt her peace unsettled him. When he finally uncovered Eric's identity, a surge of anger coursed through him. Eric was far from an ordinary ex-boyfriend. He was a man who had undermined Julia's aspirations, who had failed to stand by her side during her most crucial moments. William was determined not to allow someone like that to re-enter her life. That evening, while he lingered for Julia to finish up at the bakery, he resolved to voice his thoughts. "I need you to promise me something," he stated, arms crossed. Julia gazed at him, taken aback. "What?" "That you refuse to allow this man to destroy what we've created." She scowled. "William means nothing to me." "Then why have you been so upset since his call?" She glanced away for a moment. "Because he's tied to a past I wish to leave behind." William grasped her hand firmly. "Then let it go. You have a future to create." Julia's gaze became tender. "And does that future hold a place for you?" He offered a faint smile. "If you desire it, then yes." She inhaled deeply before gripping his hand. "I do." In that instant, Julia understood that the past had lost its hold on her. The future held the most significance at this moment. She was certain of the person she wished to share it with. As the sun dipped below the horizon of the coastal town, it adorned the sky with hues of orange and gold. A soft sea breeze danced through the bakery's curtains as Julia put the finishing touches on her day. The shop had seen a steady stream of customers. Yet, she found no reason to grumble. Everything was unfolding in a way she had never envisioned. William entered, casually leaning against the counter, a soft smile on his face. "Are you tired?" he inquired. Julia exhaled softly, a faint smile gracing her lips. Yet, it was all worth it. He observed the glimmer in her gaze. "I always believed that." She regarded him with warmth. "I could never have reached this point without you." William grasped her hand, weaving his fingers through hers. "You would have. Yet, I find solace in the fact that we embarked on this journey side by side." The stillness enveloping them was punctuated solely by the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore. In that moment, William inhaled deeply, as though weighing his words with great care. "Julia, have you ever contemplated what lies ahead?" She arched an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I mean." He paused briefly before breaking into a smile. "Do you envision a future with me in 10, 20, or even 50 years?" Her heart raced. "Yes," she replied without a moment's pause. William offered a faint smile and released her hand briefly. "That's great, as I feel the same way." Before Julia could fully grasp his words, William reached into his pocket and knelt before her. It was as if time had frozen. Her eyes grew large as she beheld the small velvet box in his hands. Julia's heart raced so rapidly she could scarcely catch her breath. "Julia, from the instant you covered my bus fare, my life transformed. I never imagined that someone like you would enter my life and completely alter my perspective." Tears welled in her eyes. William went on, "You showed me that true happiness transcends wealth and social standing. Being with someone who brings meaning to everything is what truly matters, and you embody that significance." His voice trembled just a bit, filled with feeling. "I can't envision my life without you. Each day, I long to be by your side, to share in every laugh, every dream, and every precious moment." He lifted the small box, unveiling a delicate and elegant diamond ring. "Julia, will you marry me?" Tears cascaded down her cheeks. Without a moment's hesitation, she replied, her voice trembling. William beamed as he slid the ring onto her finger, then rose to envelop her in a warm, tight embrace. The whole cafe burst into applause. The other patrons observed the moment with heartfelt emotion, and even a few staff members subtly dabbed at their eyes. Julia laughed amidst her tears, gently cradling William's face in her hands. "I love you," he smiled. "I love you more," and then he kissed her. A kiss brimming with emotion, promises, and a future that started right there in that very moment. The wedding unfolded a few months later on a flawless late afternoon by the sea. The ceremony was understated, yet profoundly beautiful. The altar was arranged on the sand, adorned with white flowers that gracefully lined the aisle. The gentle rhythm of the waves and the caress of the breeze wove an enchanting ambience. Julia strolled gracefully down the pristine aisle, adorned in a delicate dress that fluttered softly in the wind. Her gaze was fixed on William, who stood at the altar, his eyes filled with love and admiration for her. She had never experienced such joy, such certainty in her life. As she finally approached him, William grasped her hands, beaming. The officiant commenced the ceremony, yet for them, it seemed as though the entire world had faded away. "Julia," William began when it was time for the vows. "From the moment I met you, I understood that my life was lacking without you. I believed I had it all, yet I was unaware of what genuine happiness truly meant." She smiled despite the tears streaming down her face. "You revealed to me that true richness lies in the simplest of moments, in authentic love, and in the shared aspiration to create something meaningful together. That is precisely what I long for in my life." Julia grasped his hands tightly, fighting to keep her tears at bay. "William," she said, her voice brimming with feeling. "You made me believe that dreams could become reality. You didn't just have faith in me, you guided me in creating a future I once thought was out of reach." She inhaled deeply, brushing away a stray tear. "I vow to be with you through every obstacle, every triumph, and every ordinary moment life offers us." William smiled, blinking to hold back his own tears. The officiant beamed at them before wrapping up the ceremony. "By the authority granted to me, I now declare you husband and wife." William didn't hesitate for a moment. He gently cradled Julia's face and pressed his lips to hers as the guests burst into applause. The symphony of waves, the clapping, and the radiant smiles surrounding them elevated the moment to something extraordinary. In that fleeting instant, with their hearts harmonizing perfectly, Julia and William realized they were precisely where they were destined to be. What are your impressions of Julia and William's tale? We'd love to hear your insights in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you evaluate this narrative? Be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated on all our stories. And remember to explore more touching narratives by clicking here on the final screen.